Hello and welcome to the Working Title 0.4.0 Feature Showcase. I think you're going to like this one. We got a lot of good stuff. Let's get right into it. Alright, so probably the most important thing is now, this deals with the flight plan page and the legs page as far as loading airways and adjusting your flight plan as far as deleting fixes, adding them, things like that, moving them around. So let's just go ahead and throw in a flight plan real quick. We're going from Philadelphia to Boston. You'll notice a little working symbol comes up. We put that there because within the most recent flight sim patch, the facility loader that loads fixes and stuff has this horrendous delay in it. So we put that down there to show you that it's actually doing something and not just sitting there silent for 15-20 seconds. Alright, so here we go. Philly, Boston. Let's just go ahead and throw in an arrival. I'm sorry, departure. So the Philly 2 is going to be off 27 left. We'll go ahead and execute that. Go back to the flight plan page. Here is our first fix. We do have a bug right now where this should be a user waypoint. It is not showing here, but it's not a big deal. But this is where the first fix belongs. It's actually not on the second page. So the Philly 2 departure, and there's just going to be a user fix here, as you can see up here. But we'll go to the next page. We'll go ahead and throw in ditch, which is our first fix. It's working. This is okay, perfect. Now it's showing us direct to ditch. We're going to execute. Now we're going to throw in our airway, and the airway is going this via portion. You're either going to be direct to a fix or you're going to be on an airway. In this case, it's the Jet 225. Go ahead and throw that in, and that starts from the ditch waypoint. So it'll be ditch J225, and then our exit fix from the airway is going to be JFK. We'll go ahead and load that in. It's going to think about it for a little bit. And actually, it's not really a bug, but it's going to change this airway here because of the way it loads the airways. It's actually shared with another one, and it's picking up the last shared airway. So even though it shows a different one once it finally loads, it's still going to be correct. So we'll go ahead and execute that. And now if we go to the legs page, you can see it's showing us our first fix. Actually, our from fix here is the runway. And then our first fix is that user waypoint. This is actually a vector departure, so that should say vectors, but we're working on that. So then we go direct to ditch. And this is where we start the airway. So Luigi, Hannah, JFK, and then now we're going to throw in an arrival. So depart arrive, go to arrivals. We're going to do the Roebuck 3. There's no transitions yet. We're working on that. And we'll just throw in a random runway, ILS 33 left. That looks like a good transition. Go ahead and execute. Now, arrivals don't show up in the plan page because of limitations. We're working on that. We're actually going to be writing our own flight plan manager to deal with all these limitations. However, it will show in the legs page. As you can now see, after JFK, we're going to be going to news, and then this starts the arrival. And you'll see it's also going to fill in the crossing restrictions, so we have to cross FEX at or below flight level 230, and so on and so forth. We've got speed restrictions here, so 260 knots at Allin. And if you come down to the arrival, keep going on, actually going to start the approach. So I think it starts at Ernie, and then our final approach fix is Nimoy, and then we've got the runway as well. Now, go ahead and show, let's say as we're flying along, we fly to ditch, or we're just past ditch, flying to Luigi, and air traffic control tells us after ditch, proceed direct to Hannah. So in this case, we'll go ahead and click Hannah. It's going to drop it into the scratch pad. Now we're going to put it on top of Luigi, and it's going to remove Luigi and sequence the rest of the flight plan. So we'll go ahead and execute that. As you can see, everything else is there. Now let's say that they threw in another fix. Let's say they say after Hannah, you should proceed direct to Corey for weather, and then proceed direct JFK. So if you want to throw in a standalone waypoint, we'll go ahead and throw in Corey. Put that on top of JFK. It's going to load it in, Hannah, Corey, and then JFK. That looks good. Go ahead and execute. And that's how you can sequence waypoints and move them around. You can delete them as well. Let's say after Corey, they wanted to proceed direct to news. We just want to delete JFK. Go ahead and click the clear button. It'll throw it in the scratch pad. It should actually say delete. We'll fix that later. Go ahead and click JFK. It's now deleted it. As you can see, it's now Corey to news. Go ahead and execute. And there we go. Everything is good to go. Alright, so also what we changed on the legs page was now these distances here are actually the distance between waypoints instead of before it was the cumulative of the entire flight plan. For example, from Ditch to Hannah, it's going to be on a track of 051 for 51 miles. And then if we scroll all the way down, you'll see the rest of the fixes as well. Alright, and another thing to point out is this blue fix here is your from waypoint. So in this case, since we have a runway loaded in, it's going to show runway 27 left as our from fix, because once we depart and cross user and then proceed direct to ditch, you'll see user pop up in the blue here. And the magenta is your to fix. So another thing you could do, instead of having to go to the direct page, you can do it right here from the legs page, which is how I did it every time I was flying the real aircraft. It's just a lot easier because you always had the legs page up. So imagine on departure, the departure controller tells you proceed direct to Corey, or in this case, let's just go direct to Hannah. So we'll put Hannah in the scratch pad. We'll click it right here, and now we're direct to Hannah. And it shows DIR up here because that means we're direct, so there's no previous fix, because now we're going direct from our present position to Hannah. So we'll go ahead and execute, and the rest of the flight plan will sequence as well. So definitely it's pretty good quality of life changes. Hopefully these changes allow you to flight plan in the FMS instead of having to do it through the map page before you load in. Maybe increase your immersion a little bit. Alright, so we also did some changes to the depart arrive page as far as sequencing. With if you had all these separate arrivals, if you hit the next, it should show them. The fuel management page had some fixes. Actually, I'll just show you that right now. Index, it's actually perf. Fuel management, if you go to page 2, this automatically starts counting your fuel once you boot it up, so you don't need to reset this every time, but you could if you wanted to. The tune page now syncs back the radio changes from other instruments to the simulator, so there shouldn't be any discontinuities between all that stuff. We fixed an issue on the PFD when you're in, let's say, flying a localizer. Sometimes the distance would come back as a string where the game is thinking it's a number, and it would crash and you get the black screens and it would be all funky. Well, that's been fixed. You can also see here we've added the animated radar bug. There's actually an actual bug with this. It shows all the time. It should only show when you have the radar turned on. However, we will change that at some point, but I think it's pretty cool. It shows you a little more immersion. Now onto the MFD, which is where a lot of the work's been done. I think you'll enjoy this part. So we've added the menus to the upper menu. Upper menu. Now, if we go to the FMS page, this actually brings up the proper FMS page here. It's actually the progress page. If you were to go to the index, index progress, it's pretty much this page up here, so you don't have to have this up all the time. And of course, it's got the from fix, the to fix, and it'll be the time and the distance and all that. And it will also show your landing or your current weight, or I'm sorry, your fuel on destination and your landing weight. So that's pretty nice. Also, if we go to the upper menu, you could select checklist, passenger brief, and the systems as well. So these systems will come up here. However, you could use these buttons down here now that they've been activated. This is on the CCP. It's called the cursor control panel. You can see this cursor button, which actually doesn't even work in the real airplane. But if I go ahead and click systems, it's going to pop up our systems down here, just like it should. And we can cycle through that as well. So this is nice if you have some other pages up here and you wanted to, check the fuel flow or things like that. You can bring that option up. Also, we have the checklist. Now, we have every single checklist from the real airplane is inside here. So you're going to use the menu and data knobs here. So we're going to click, and it's going to bring up all of our checklist. And this thing's nice. You pretty much only have to use the push select button here. So we'll go ahead and do the before start checklist, just to give you a preview. All you have to do is just click the button, and it will highlight it and tell you what has been done. And if you keep clicking through all of them, it will go straight on to the next checklist. And let's say you finish this one here. All right, it's good. If you escape this and went all the way back, did some other pages and stuff, you could go right back into it, and it'll start right where you left off. So it's pretty handy, I think. It's really nice, actually. I like it a lot. Also, we have the passenger brief system. Unfortunately, we don't have the audio in here yet. I have all the audio recorded for all these announcements, but we just weren't able to get it into this most recent patch. But you can see it's here. That will be updated, hopefully next patch, or maybe might do it as soon as we can. We'll see what happens. But the other thing kind of involved with that stuff is we've changed some of the things here. Now you're going to hear a little chime when you deselect these buttons. There's also a current bug with this one. You don't hear the first chime as you should. We're going to be fixing that. But we also enabled the safety button and its own appropriate message, so we'll listen to that.
May I have your attention, please? At this time, please comply with the illuminated seat belt and no smoking signs. Thank you.
We have also increased the volume for the fans. You hear that? It sounds about right for what it should be. It comes out there pretty strong. That should be open, but also this will only work the climate control turn in the normal or compressor on position. However, kind of a bug right now, or just a feature we haven't fixed yet, but even if you turn this off, this sound still plays. But we'll be fixing that in the future. Let's go ahead and turn that off. Alright, so the next things we have going on are with the engine model. Just go ahead and close this out, bring the systems up, close that. Alright, so we have our fuel flow right now, 150 pounds an hour. I would say we have completely solved all of the fuel flow issues. We pretty much ran our own system, completely bypassed what the Asobo's been doing. So let me just bring up the engines here. And also with that, I also changed the thrust values. So thrust should act exponentially with N1, or basically thrust lever angle. So right now we're throwing 253 pounds. Let's go ahead and go to full power. I should put brake on. I hate that. Alright, so it's a good time to turn on the systems button. You can see we're burning about 1850 a side. That's exactly right. Our thrust is just a little low from the real thing, but I think right now that's actually the performance of the airplane acts pretty well. And now we'll go ahead and go up to 40,000 feet, and you can see the difference in the fuel flow. It's actually correct. Should be about 600 pounds an hour or so. And we'll go ahead and show that. Alright, here we are at 40,000 feet. You can see our Mach 0.764, just about max speed here. You can see our fuel burn, 615, which is spot on. The other thing too I noticed, if you're having this porpoising issue with the autopilot, it helps if you fight it with your trim. I was able to do it. I have a trim wheel, and I was just fighting it, and it kind of went nose down with it, and it seemed to just kind of cancel out, and I just left it where it's at. So maybe that's a short-term fix for this annoying autopilot bug. As you can see, our thrust is definitely down at altitude. And we'll just go ahead and go to the progress page here. So you can see our total fuel flow is correct. Now we're at 28, so this pretty much solves the fuel flow issues. Alright, I'd like to give you a little demonstration of the gear drag, so we'll go ahead and throw that down. Looks pretty good, and we'll go ahead and bring it back up. Now we'll go ahead and bring the speed brakes out. Let's see if we can show both. Maybe not. Alright, so I'm going to bring the speed brakes fully out. As you can see, it doesn't completely obliterate the nose of the aircraft into the ground. I think it's a good compromise. It definitely increases your descent rate, but it doesn't destroy your speed. So it's a lot more realistic. Go ahead and bring this up, and just go ahead and drop flaps. Definitely reduce the drag on the flaps, because it was really excessive. So here comes flaps 15. Definitely a lot of nose up there. Alright, we'll go ahead and drop flaps 35.
Landing gear.
Whoops.
Landing gear.
So it's definitely not as bad as before, and I think it's a good change.